Good morning. Welcome everyone. We are starting a brand new learning series. Last week we finished the first section of Tanya. We finished with chapter 53, and that was quite a feat. It took us almost 2 years. We went through COVID, before COVID, during COVID, beyond COVID, right? But now we are branching off to something new. And before we do that, of course, we're going to start off, as always, by saying Tehillim and giving tzedakah. So grab your tzedakah box, and even if you're watching this later, tzedakah could be given every day, all day, except for Shabbat and some holidays. So put in your tzedakah and say, Gedolah tzedakah shemikareves es ha'geula. And I do want to say that today is my Zayda's yard site, Zayda ben Sion Shem Tov. Remember, I'm named after Goldie, his wife, so it's an important day for me. And it's also my little brother Benzi Shem Tov, the rabbi at UIC. It's his birthday and his anniversary to my sister Chani. So I'm going to also dedicate part of this class to them as well. They should continue having a lot of nachas from their beautiful children and success in their shlichus. Some of the people we're going to say Tehillim for here is Yaakov Moshe ben Necha, Yehudis bas Sarah, Yitzchak Moshe ben Rachel Reza, Zipporah Hinda bas Rachel Miriam, Sarah bas Chana, Moshe Rachmiel ben Miriam Mushka, Tinok ben Shifra Rezel, and feel free to put down anyone else's names that you would like us to daven for. Good morning, Rosalie. Good morning, Becky. Good morning, Leah. Good morning, Miriam. So let's get our Tehillim, chapter 20. If you don't have one in front of you, I'll say it and you can say Amen. Here we go. Lamanatseach mizmor leDavid, Yancha Adonai biyom tzara, Yisagefcha Shem Elohei Yaakov, Yishlach Ezracha mikodesh umitzian Yisadeka, Yiskar kol mechosecha v'lascha yidash nesela. Yiten lechacha v'vecha v'chol asascha yimalei. Nirana b'shuasecha u'v'shem Eloheinu nidgol. Yimalei Adonai kol mashalasecha. Ati adati ki hoshi Adonai mishicho yaneu mishpei kacha b'gvuros yesha yamino. Ela v'recha ve'ela v'asusim v'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu naskir. Hema kar v'nafalu v'anachnu kamnu v'nisodad. Adonai Hoshia Hamelach Yanenu B'Yom Karenu. Many of you know that 2 days ago, on Sunday, was Gimel Tammuz. That was the Rebbe's 27th yard site. And are you ready for the surprise? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to find out what we're learning now. What the new series, it will take us over a year. So for those of us who have been learning together, have no fear. We're going to continue learning together. Anybody want to know what's going on? Let me see those emojis. Are you interested in what we're going to be learning? Okay, this is an incredible sefer. Its author's name is Rabbi Bachya ben Pekida, Ibn Pekida. It's not a new book. It was written in the 11th century, and it was originally written in Aramaic. And the author is not a contemporary, as you can see. And he wrote this book because he felt that the people needed something very, very important in their life. They needed bitachon, trust. And so, ladies and ladies, presenting to you our newest course. And here we go. Shaar Habitachon, the gate of trust. It is part of a whole piece of work that he wrote called Chovat HaLevavot. This is one of his gates. And we are going to learn this book. And I would like to tell you that for those of you who can get a hold of this book, I'm going to put it down in the comments. I would love you to get this book. It was just recently published by Kahas, the umbrella, the a printing press of Chabad worldwide. And what's beautiful about it is that it was published and dedicated in honor of a wonderful woman, Ruth Glowinski. So her children dedicated this book. And the Glowinski family actually reached out to my husband and said they have extra copies. So if you want your own copy, so that when we learn, you could be with us together, you can follow along, leave me a message here on this page, or just put it down in the comments, and I will give you a time and place that you can come and pick up a copy. It was also sponsored by one of our very close friends, Michael and Heather Aaron, in honor of Heather's dad, Arthur Beitel, Usher Ben Chaim. And actually this copy was given to me by Heather and Michael. I love the book. I love this sefer. And after I got it, I'm like, okay, we're learning this. Soon as Tanya's done, we are learning this. This is going to change your life. Tell me, are you ready to change your life? Are you ready to improve what is already going good? Are you ready to improve? Give me a thumbs up. Now, if I could put an emoji on this, I would, but I can't. Good morning, Corinne. Good morning, Arlene, Rosalie. Good morning, Marcy from Texas. Lauren, good morning. Yes, it was a great program last night. Good morning, Brenda, Clara. Oh, Marcy says the sefer's out of stock. But if you live in Toronto, I can get you a copy. Okay. Good morning, Dorit. Good morning, Kim. Okay. So if you want a book, you'll just put down, I would like a book, and I will tell you how you can get a copy. Okay, so what is about this book that I am so excited about? What do you think so many people are missing in their lives? Now more than ever, Jews are confronted with a lot of anxiety. We have anti-Semitism, which is rampant. We have COVID, where people are still struggling with that, the aftermath, and in Canada, we're still struggling with it. People are struggling with the worry about what's going on in Israel. And now there's a new challenge with the horrible Hamas and threatening to start again. But what Rabbi Bachya is telling us in this book, and I must mention that anytime people would write to the Rebbe and talk about how they are anxious and worried and they can't sleep at night and they're overwhelmed with dagot, the Rebbe would say to them, go learn Shaar Habitachon. Go learn Gate of Trust. Now, what's interesting is this is the first time this book, with commentaries from classical and Hasidic sources, has been published. So this book, as I mentioned, has been around since the 11th century. And although it was started off being written in Arabic, but that was the language then of the Jews, it has now been translated, and this book is now in English and in Hebrew. And now, because it has a lot of Hasidic commentaries, it's going to be very much aligned with the Tanya that we have been learning. And you're really going to love that. So a lot of what we're going to learn about, we had already touched on in our Tanya classes. But this is going to just focus on the one mitzvah of bitachon. Now, if anybody could tell me here in the comments, what does the word bitachon mean to you? Because many people confuse it with amuna. Okay? Can you please put down in the comments? Hi, good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Evelyn. Good morning, Barb. What does the word bitachon mean? Because that's going to help us with the start on our tremendous journey together. And you know, it's going to change you. It's going to change me. There is no one that's going to be now listening to this class and learning this incredible, incredible book that is not going to be changed unless you're made out of stone, unless a person is made out of stone. I love this. I love this because I feel like it's going to change our relationship with God, with the world, with people. Yes, trust is exactly what this word means. Bitachon means trust. It means confidence. It means certainty. Excellent. You're all on the right track. Certainty. These are all the expressions of bitachon. Now, if you know someone who you feel would benefit from this class, press share on your button right now so that your friends can also get the gift of trust. Okay, very good, Ava. Faith or trust and security. Thank you very much. So the power of the Jewish nation to survive all the terrors and temptations of history and its ability to thrive is due solely to our unique connection to Hashem. We have spoken in the past about great heroes, great illustrious Jewish people who have gone into the fire during the Spanish Inquisition with such emunah and such trust. And then we've spoken about people like Pearl, Mr. Pearl, who was murdered by some radical Muslim terrorists. And he went with the great words of the Shema on his lips saying, my father's a Jew, my mother's a Jew, and I'm a Jew. So where does that come from? So the author here is saying that the fact that we have had this unique connection with God has given us the ability to have this trust. This uniqueness is apparent on an individual level, not just as a nation, but as an individual level. It is enshrined in the tale of our people that are replete with saintly, but also simple individuals. And that is what is so crucial. It's not just the saintly, holy Rebbes, the great Tzaddikim, the illustrious Beinani. No, it's for me and you. It's simple individuals alike. And sometimes we show and display literally superhuman characteristics. And we've done this with tranquility and selflessness. And so every day, every week, we're going to uncover one part of the gate. And today I hope we're going to get to the gate of tranquility. Tell me, how many times throughout the day do you feel stress, your nerves, worry, sadness? Something overwhelms you. Something grips you with a terror or uncertainty. Does it ever happen to you during your day, during your week? If it has, can you give me a thumbs up so I'll know that we're here on the same page? Tova, good morning, Francesca. Good morning, Talia. Corinne says often. Often. Yes. And yet, although we know that there is a God that runs the world, and we are connected, so many of us light the Shabbos candles, so many of us give tzedakah, we do Shabbat to the best of our ability. Many women go to the mikvah. We do mitzvahs of the limb. But today, with this new sefer, this new holy book, we are going to learn the mitzvahs of the heart. There are majority of the mitzvahs in the Torah are mitzvahs that are action, right? Put on a mezuzah, invite a guest to your house, kiss the Torah, daven, say Tehillim, give tzedakah, check your meat, cooking, shopping for Shabbat, shopping for your family, building a sukkah, lighting a menorah. These are all mitzvahs that are action. Now we are going to learn about mitzvahs from the heart. A little bit more esoteric, a little bit more spiritual, but you're ready. because we've already studied the Tanya. We're ready for this. And why is this book going to speak to you? Because you've studied the Tanya and you've learned that you have a neshama, which is a piece of Hashem. So it's going to be easy for you to connect. But you've also learned that you have a nefesh bahamit and nefesh elokis. And if you remember those words, give me the thumbs up. We each have two souls, the animal soul and the godly soul. And every time you struggle with a tinge of anxiety or a stress, that you should know is coming just from the animal soul. Your nefesh elokis is not struggling. Your godly soul is so connected. You are not struggling. So if you are going to experience, which we do because we have both souls, and until we've mastered that animal soul, which means until we become the Beinoni, we're going to struggle. We're going to have doubts, worries. Someone's going to call you with a tragedy. Someone's going to call you that this and this just happened, and you're going to freak out, and you're going to get tense, and you're going to have a lump in your throat, and your heart's going to start beating you. Tell me, give me a thumbs up if you've ever experienced that. Have you ever had a tightening in your heart? Or your heart skipped a beat because you were so worried? We all feel that. Guess why? We feel that because we have a nefesh bahamis, the animal soul that gets on top of our godly soul. And he is mastering our internal. But this book is going to make sure that we are going to be the master of our thoughts. And we are going to be the master of our hearts. And that's why I'm so excited. The Hebrew word for this superior relationship, for anyone who just joined, this book is called Shaar Habitachon. Author is Rabbeinu Bachya ibn Pekuda, written in the 11th century, written in Arabic, translated into English, into Hebrew, and recently in English with Hasidic and classical commentaries. Original book is the Chovot HaLevavot, and this is one of the gates called the Gate of Trust. Okay, I'm sorry for those of you who joined late. I'm sorry I didn't reiterate the book that we're using. So the Hebrew word for this superior relationship with God, as we said, is bitachon, which in this context is really translated, as we said, as trust. But it also means, as many of you put down in the comments, it means security, confidence, reliance, and certainty. Imagine. I'm getting the chills now. You wake up in the morning, you have this absolute certainty that your day is going to be great. That Hashem is holding your hand. That you are not walking alone. That every minute of your day is being supervised and organized and totally being guided over by God. You know the story of the fellow that's walking on the beach, and in front of him he sees 4 steps. He sees 4 steps, 4 footsteps. And he knows that his footsteps are 1, but he says, who's the second footsteps? And a voice says, it's me, it's God. I'm walking with you. Wherever you know, I'm walking with you. And he continues walking in the sand. And suddenly he only sees 1 set of footprints. And he gets very, very, very stressed and very anxious. And he cries out, he goes, God, where are you? God, where are you? I thought you were next to me. And God says, I am. He goes, so where are your footsteps? He says, those footsteps that you see are mine. But I'm carrying you now on my shoulders. That's why you only see 1. Because I'm carrying you now. We have to live our lives with the absolute certainty, bitachon, that Hashem is walking at our side. And if ever we are walking and we feel like we are alone, just visualize yourself on the beach. And those footprints that you just see, God, He's carrying you. You're never alone. A person who seeks to remain calm, relaxed, and focused at the most trying moments, or one who seeks authenticity or advancement in their personal relationship with God, to serve God in the way He truly wishes, will strive to live with bitachon. So if you are looking for a life of calmness, you want to be a wife that's calm and relaxed. You want to be that mom that is focused, that is mindful. You are going to live with bitachon. So do you want this life? Is this the life you want? Is this the life? Yes, I will write down the title, Francesca. Talia says it sounds like a dream. Corinne says she wants to cry. Francesca says, I'm sure of that. Francesca doesn't understand the difference between Emunah and bitachon, and we will talk about that in a second. And everyone here is saying, yes, I want this. I want this. Yes, yes, yes. You know, I just want to laugh for a second. I've watched sometimes, you have Tony Robbins and some of these coaching webinars where they have like thousands of people who are standing here and they scream, yes, 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 I want that life. I want to be successful. Have you ever watched that? And I look at that and I go, oh, that sounds so creepy. But I think that many of these great coaches are actually preaching a lot about trusting in God. And a lot of Jews don't know that. And we have to run to people like Tony Robbins and some of these other non-Jews who are going to give us that calmness, that success, that zero anxiety or less anxiety or hope. You know, we have to turn to them, but we don't. We have to turn to our own Torah. In fact, there was a woman last night, Michelle, I can't remember her last name. She's an author of a great book, and I'll share it with you next week because I'm actually going to order it. She is really up there in TikTok and Facebook, and she's a huge multimedia guru, and she recently came back to Judaism, and she's finding that her whole life has changed. She had a full life of success, but a lot of anxiety. And she started to find Hashem. She became close to a Chabad rabbi somewhere. And she started bringing Hashem into her life. And thank you, Osman. Thank you, Rosalie. Michelle Osman. You could look her up. Her book is just out there and is making great, great waves. Because she has a huge following. She's a master in TikTok, and TikTok is massive, has millions and millions of followers. She is now going to bring bitachon and the word of bitachon into the world. So we are going to strive to live a life of bitachon. The work that we are going to start learning today, this book, Gates of Bitachon, explores bitachon in depth. Okay, so it's not just understanding what it means, but we're going to discuss it in depth in an extraordinary, lucid, and useful manner. So it's going to be very, very practical and hands-on. And I mentioned, even though it was penned in the 11th century by Rabbi Bachya ben Pekuda, he was a leader of a big community then in the Iberian Peninsula, it's very, very relevant today. You see, Torah, we spoke about it so many times, Torah is emes, truth. How do we know Torah is truth? Because it stands in every generation with its time and its population. So no matter where we live, Torah is relevant to us. So something that was written in the 11th century, that's 10 centuries ago, is still relevant today. Why? Because Torah is emes. Torah is truth. Now, Chovot HaLevavot, as I mentioned to you, was published in the Arabic language first, because that's what it's like we're writing books today in English, right? We're translating Hebrew today into English, right? Because that's the language today. I'm not going to be surprised that this book is going to be soon translated in Russian, French, Spanish, because Jews all over the world are speaking different languages, right? And this was part of a larger book that was presented as a guide to the duties of the heart. A century later, the guide was translated into Hebrew under the familiar title of Chovat HaLevavot. And then the fourth of its 10 sections is the one that we are learning today. So despite the enormous library of Jewish literature assembled over the centuries, Shaar Habitachon remains one of Judaism's foremost descriptions of our ability to climb to the transformative point where our relationship with God becomes powerful, empowering, beautiful, life-changing, relaxing. Imagine living in the 21st century with all the trauma that people are going through, and this book is going to give us the ability to relax. But what's interesting is, I never learned this book. But throughout the years, the Rebbe, when he was asked questions and he was asked for direction by Jews around the world, so many times he would tell them to study this book. He would tell them they needed a boost in their trust, and he would say to them, go back to Shaar Habitachon. That is why this book was written, actually translated. Let me see if I could find the name of the person who actually compiled this book. I believe his name is Rabbi Marcus. And he compiled this book and translated it in very, very contemporary terms so that we can all benefit from it. But the Rebbe would send many, many, many people from all walks of life to study this. Why? Because the Rebbe felt that if they had something to turn to, they wouldn't have struggles. You know, I remember a little while after Zalmi was born, and I swung back, pretty much back to, you know, my teaching, my shlichus. Beginning, I was very, very, very angry. And I remember it was like a few weeks after Zalmi was born. He was in the hospital for many weeks. And I was driving into school to check on the school. And I'm driving through the driveway. So for those of you who know our school, we have this roundabout. So I was driving through the roundabout, and my husband was coming out. And he beeps the horn and rolls down the window, and I roll down mine. He goes, hey, Goldie, what's happening with the Melava Malka that we had planned for this week? Because we always plan our programs like a year in advance. And I remember saying to him, Melava Malka this week? Tell God to figure out his own Melava Malka. And I turned back up my window and went into the parking lot. Like, really? I'm going to do something for God? He just gave me a special needs child, and I'm going to reward him with dealing with the Melava Malka, inspiring people here? No way! That was the beginning. And then, as I mentioned to you many times, I started studying Tanya. And then I started studying about Habitachon. And slowly, slowly, my trust in God came back. And a few years later, I was able to be right back in there, teaching, coping, living, smiling. I wouldn't say it was a few years later. It was probably like maybe even a year later. I was really feeling myself getting back to myself, because I had what this book is telling us gave me tranquility. I put my trust in the first set of footprints. I knew God was there. I knew God was holding my hand. And I want to quote something that the Rebbe wrote to someone who told him he doesn't have trust. The Rebbe wrote, I'm extremely surprised at your low spirits. Strengthen your trust in God. A person studies and studies, but when it comes to practical application, where is the trust? You should study Shaar Habitachon, Gate of Trust, in Chovat HaLevavot 3 or 4 times. It is self-understood that I don't mean you should study it all at one time, but in the course of a few weeks. So the Rebbe is telling him, study this book. and you will strengthen your trust in God. So I was telling you that someone had come over to me like a few months, maybe a few years later, and they said, Goldie, you just have so much trust. I wish I had it. I wasn't born with it. But I'm telling you, all my friends who are watching, you're not born with trust. You do have bitachon because you have a neshama, you have a nefesh elokis. So of course we have that. But we also have a nefesh bahamis. So what we have to do is the sound gone for everyone? Guys, tell me in the comments, is my sound gone? I don't see you guys. Is the sound gone? Corinne, is the sound gone? Oh my gosh. The sound is gone. Rosalie says it's... Oh, Talia hears me. Okay. Everyone said they hear me. Okay. Corinne, just check your, something maybe in your house. Okay. Thank you all. So someone asked me, where do I get that bitachon? And I said to them, it's something that we can all learn. It's something that we learn. It is not something that you are raised with. Oh, she was raised by religious parents, so she has bitachon. The Rebbe is saying, read this book, learn this book, and you will then re-inspire your nefesh elokis, because remember, your nefesh elokis has it, right? It's not something new. What we're learning now is nothing new. It's going to re-spark what we all have. And like Talia says, it's definitely learned. Exactly, you learn it. Now, with the emergence of teachings from the Baal Shem Tov, especially as explored and expanded in the Tanya, right, in the Alter Rebbe, the Rebbes of Lubavitch have a new dimension, because Chassidus is a new dimension on Torah. So referred to collectively as Chassidus, which is what we learn together. And this also sheds some light on this book. So although this book was written in the 11th century, now with the gleanings of Chassidus, it's going to give an extra little oomph and an extra little jump into our teachings and into our learning of this book. Now, we would expect, right, in a classic book of faith like this one, to encounter elucidations of our beliefs and our profound insights into God. Logically, these are necessary prerequisites to the goal of the work, which is trusting God. But the author also acknowledges as much in his insistence that the degree of our trust hinges upon the depths of our understandings of God's greatness. And we spent many chapters in Tanya when we spoke about Yira and Ava. Do you remember that? Give me a thumbs up. Do you remember? We spoke so much about the awareness of the awe of God, of God's greatness, his infinity, right? His omnipotence, his omnipresence. I mean, we spent, I think, about 4 or 5 weeks learning all about God's greatness, and that we relied on God, on his compassion, on his trustworthiness. Why? Because we learned about God. If you're going to have trust in God, you have to know who God is. And that's why when we learned Tanya, which I believe was the base for learning this book. So, we are now going to give you the basic tools: a belief that there is a God, a belief in divine providence, a belief that God cares for us, a belief that God is compassionate, and understanding that we must serve God. So, we are going to conclude today's short class, and if you want your friends to learn with us next week, feel free to press share and like so that your friends will join us on this empowering, invigorating, and oh so important class. This is going to shake us out of our anxiety, our stress, our worry. Now, I want to tell you something. This isn't about sitting like this for the rest of the week and saying, woo, I've got trust. Don't have to lift my finger. No, 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 no. This comes with all the hard work we're going to do. You got to get out there and work. You got to get out there and make a living. But our head, our focus is not going to be entrenched with our worries of work. Da'aga. We're not going to have the worries of all the physical and external challenges. We still have to get out there and work. We got to shop. We got to work. We got to exercise. You got to eat well. But on top of all that, you're doing it easier because you have what we're going to end off with today, the word Habitachon, trust. Can't wait to see you next week. And I'm so excited you're joining me on the journey.